Go.
Get ready, get set for the best movie and pop culture talk in the universe. It's the Good Brothers on Mercado Airwaves with your hosts, Alex Mercado and Mike Mercado.
Welcome back to another episode of the Good Brothers. I'm Alex, that's Mike. We are the Good Brothers, the best brothers. We are your highwaymen from Los Angeles to New York City, talking everything pop culture. Say hi to the folks, Mike.
Hi, folks. Mike, good brother Brady. How are you guys doing on this Sunday early evening in the greatest city in the world, Chicago? How are you guys?
We're doing good. Nice weather finally. We're about to get a week of shitty weather, and the Cubs blew it, but we have a lot of fun Bears talk for once in our life to talk about. A once-in-a-lifetime quarterback, question mark?
Maybe, and if you guys want to go into deep dives around that, good brother, we started a new show here on the network, no name officially, but it was 10 years in the making. Everett O'Neill, Mike Mercado are together, and we are creating some fun content. Episode 1 was all about Sir Justin Fields joining the Chicago Bears, and we'll talk about the NFL draft in a little while. But first things first, good brother, a congratulations to the one and only the good brother, Alex Mercado, as he won the rubber match in our Oscar prediction pool. He is now 2-1 officially on the Good Brothers. It was Ma Rainey's that put you over with 2 extra points over the good brother Mike Mercado. So go ahead, take your Rumble WrestleMania moment. You are this year's champion.
You know, I had a lot of good picks, I felt like, and I should have trusted my pick on Sir Anthony Hopkins. And we talked about it on the show. I was like, man, like it's going to come down to those two. And I really thought once they turned the show and they changed the category spacing and timing, I was like, okay, I feel better about my pick. The problem is, again, producers don't know the outcome. They can take an educated guess of the outcome and see like, okay, this is how we're going to run the show. So it's a little chaotic, and running live TV is never perfect. That's why I think now they know you don't do it. Regardless if you have the world's greatest actor, someone like Chadwick Boseman who passed, and it'll be a beautiful moment, you don't risk it unless you 100% know that person's going to win, because, you know, the great Bruce Pritchard always says you're going to remember the beginning and the end more than anything. So it doesn't matter if it's a great middle. A lot of us are leaving there remembering, oh, wait, he got screwed, when he didn't really get screwed. Anthony Hopkins, it's a well-deserved Oscar. It's just, it set you up for something, and when you didn't get that specific thing, it really hurt the show overall, even though there was a lot of nice winners in there.
And I think for anybody, and this is why our show is important, quote unquote, for people who are into the entertainment business, the entertainment world, the medium of movies and streaming. So what the good brother Alex is basically getting at is one of the normal things in the Academy is Best Picture usually is the capper. It finishes the night. It is the cleanup man. And it's usually the big deal because it's about movies. Correct, good brother? This is about seeing what is the best movie get acknowledged amongst its peers. That's not what happened this year. What happened this year was whether it was an audible that was called in the middle of the show or it was pre-planned, because like you and I were talking about on last week's prediction show, there were some talks about the late, great Chadwick Boseman being the front runner. But you so astutely brought up that it might have been Anthony Hopkins. He had a legit shot. So They messed up in that end. And I think that is a blunder on that's on them. That's the equivalent of having when Undertaker and Shawn Michaels were in WrestleMania 25, and instead of that being the main event, they put on Triple H and Orton, or when it was, The Rock and Hulk Hogan, they did the same thing. So there is some similarities about producing a show and doing it correctly and reading the audience. With that, we do know that we'll stay with one more criticism, and then I want to get to some quick winners before we have a fun show like the Good Brothers background show. He is excited about a full review, spoiler-free, coming up in just a little bit of the hit series Invincible. But what did you think about the ratings being so low?
It's understandable. We called that. It's not the year for award shows. And especially a show like it was definitely meant for diehard critics and diehard movie fans, more than just trying to be entertaining, compared to some other award shows where entertainment's first and foremost and whoever wins second. This kind of turned into that. And I know a lot of pundits want it like this. And I think we finally got our evidence of like, no, you are entertainment to an extent. You do have to put a little more into it. So it does go to question, did we need these awards? Probably not, but we got them, and it was good for the winners. But I think now we know going next year, I think you need a host. I think you do need to put on some sort of performance. You got to find that middle of too much and just enough. You don't want to rush the awards. That's the good part. You got to take the good of both.
You know, as sports fans and as wrestling fans, and then we have the entertainment world, you know, you see something that was the NFL draft, the pomp and circumstance of they have a big performance, and then they also have, you know, these technical lights, and they have the great graphics, and they make it this big performance for an entire weekend. But then you see something like over here in WrestleMania, right? They do the same thing. They make it a big part of the show. And I think the Oscars, it's not necessarily that they need a host. I think the big issue with the Oscars is that they're missing the connection with the audience. You know, the big thing between sports and wrestling and concerts and a lot of these different things are it's symbiotic relationship with the audience, with the consumer. And the Oscars, at least over the last decade, and maybe it's that because of social media and a lot of people being a little bit more critical towards the quote unquote Hollywood elite, there is a disconnect, and I don't think people care as much because I think, for lack of a better term, because I'm not too smart, is they feel people are smelling their own farts and telling us that it smells good, and I think that's what a lot of the Oscars are. But there were some dope winners. And for us in the industry who love great work, you know, it's kind of like in sports when you see a great pitching matchup or a great defensive game in football. That's what this Oscars were. We had some wonderful contenders. So really fast, Nomadland, Best Picture. Anthony Hopkins, Best Actor. Frances McDormand, Best Actress. We had Yo Yeon Jung for Best Supporting Actress. Chloe Zhao for Best Director. Daniel Kaluuya obviously killed it. So anything else you want to talk about when it comes to the Oscars, put that down, and hopefully next year we'll get things to a little bit more normal and we can all enjoy, you know, a what should be a celebration of some of our favorite things in the universe.
No, I'll enjoy my victory. It's like a Lakers championship or a Dodgers. You may not think it's as credible, but I'm going to take it. It goes in the record books.
Yeah, that sounds just like you taking it halfway when it comes to taking me on because you know you can't do it head to head. That is a different conversation.
Not halfway either. That's the trouble part.
I see. Good brother, speaking of that, this is something that I'm super excited about because the entire series is not out and I can now binge the entire thing and say it's for work purposes. That is because Invincible is finally completed, at least season 1. It is a hit. The first episode, one of the things that took the internet by storm. Your thoughts, spoiler free. Tell us why, elevator pitch, we should be watching this series.
Well, don't be like Good Brother Mike, and you should have been watching probably, I would say, one of Amazon's best shows, and that's saying a lot. And I would say this is as good as The Boys. It's very different, but it has a very similar tone to it. It builds extremely well, and it has probably the best voice cast I've ever seen. I'm just going to name a few names here. Stephen Yeun, Sandra Oh, J.K. Simmons, Zazie Beetz, Gray Griffin, Kevin Michael Richardson, Walton Goggins, Jillian Jacobs, Andrew Ramos, Chris Diamantoulis, Zachary Quinto, just to name a few of the people that show up in majority of the episode. This is an all-star cast. It already, before the season finale, it got signed on for 2 more seasons, and shows that get signed on for multiple seasons after usually is a very good sign. So I'd say if you haven't seen it, no better time than now. Binge all the episodes. It's very heartfelt for an animated show. It's definitely onto something. Amazon's taking these swings in the superhero genre, and it's hitting. And I would argue that this is on par with Walking Dead. Since it is the same creators, I am definitely enjoying this show and universe a little bit more just because we know where Walking Dead eventually goes. And whether you're a fan or not of it, this definitely has set you up for something a little more fun. So new is always fun, so that's great.
Yeah, and it's so big that like a character like Omni-Man, nobody knew about, but unless you read Invincible, you know, like I knew this because of Kirkman, but to see how the impact of Amazon Prime to be able to make it and the impact and the visualization of how they put that into action was top notch. And like you mentioned, the voice actor, you and I are voice actor, voice-over nerds, especially myself. It's something that a dream job for me, and to see how stacked and how much and how many great actors enjoy doing this now. You know, for a lot of people, they used to think it was very low tier to do voice acting. And like, no, it is the best way to make a living if you're an entertainer. And it's also another way to express your art. And this show and the visualization amongst its counterpart with the voice acting, just alone on that episode 1, if you weren't hooked after that, you're not going to be hooked for the rest of the series. So what are your overall grades, and are you as excited for, let's say, season 2 of Invincible as you are for, let's say, season 3 of The Boys?
You know, it's pretty equal right now. I like Invincible because where they leave you, since it is a first season, it's like The Boys where it leaves you with a lot more. Compared to The Boys where now that we're going to be on season 3, we're starting to narrow in on some storylines. So they're both exciting for different reasons, I would say.
Any final thoughts, though, about Invincible that will keep it spoiler-free that you're just excited about, and something that you and I will talk about as the animation and whatnot comes out for season 2?
It's a great adult animation, and I think it reminds me of Subtitles, where if you can get past, you know, it being a cartoon, I think you're really going to enjoy the storylines they're telling.
Good Brothers, speaking of storylines being told, on Thursday night, many teams' futures were changed, including a certain theme from a certain city with a certain coach, and now a certain quarterback. Good brother, what happened on Thursday night in our fair city, and also amongst many other amazing cities in this country?
Well, Cleveland was host to the 2021 draft, and the Chicago Bears decided to go up north and grab themselves a quarterback from a certain school that I know you hate.
So
now
much.
You must learn to love, because now our star quarterback is alumni to this city, this university of the Ohio State University. We picked up Mr. Fields himself. I think the steal of the draft. I think it possibly could go down as the best quarterback in the draft.
I actually agree. Now,
Tell us why I'm right.
well, because it's interesting you say that. Now, a lot of GMs have finally released their grades, and amongst 8 GMs, he was ranked the number 1 quarterback coming out. 8 NFL GMs right now think Justin Fields was better than Trevor Lawrence. I think what happened to Justin Fields was this. He was the quarterback that had the most film on him. He had the most criticism on him because he had been in the spotlight as long as Trevor Lawrence. Remember, these two cats going into college were the number 1 and number 2 quarterbacks going into their freshman year. Then guess what? Both of them, after the college football playoffs, are the number 1 and number 2 going into mock drafts. Then because of an amazing video and some great attributes, Zach Wilson goes up the draft board. And then out of nowhere, the San Francisco Giants, the San Francisco 49ers decide to make a huge move, and they get Trey Lance. Then the New York Giants, which you got to give them credit on themselves. They do get a number 1 pick, and they do something they never really do, which is move down, make this trade with the Bears. But it only happens because Carolina and Denver don't pick quarterbacks. So a lot of luck had to happen with it. But there's also a lot of cultural impact. Chicago, 3rd largest market in the United States. The Chicago Bears, charter franchise. You, somebody who mentors and coaches the youths. What does it mean to have an athlete in the most popular sport in the country, in the most important position in all of sports in our country, to be such a cool factor, to have the it factor? What does that mean, do you think, for the entertainment pop culture side of the NFL?
I mean, it goes down to this. Representation always matters. So that's never not going to be the case. That representation means a lot. And, you know, Chicago's a city known that we have never had a dominant black quarterback. And I think it's something this city definitely has needed to really carry us into this next level of football. You know, how many times are we going to have every 5 years? It feels like we build the greatest defense in football, but we have no one to really lead the team. And it comes down to, well, we need someone to manage it. And this feels more exciting. It feels like for the first time in Chicago sports in a few years, I know you're really pumped about the Bulls. I don't see it still. And the NBA being the NBA, it's kind of like, are we ever really going to feel that? I'm guessing not, but I'm not the expert. This feels like football's that sport where this feels like a game changer. This feels like now I can get excited about watching the Bears. Those ticket prices are going up, which sucks. But guess what? It's exciting. It's like when the Cubs, you know, got Chris Bryant and we had Javi and Contreras, like, it all added up. This is the beginning of that, it feels like. So I'm really excited because we haven't had this in Chicago in a while since, I would say, a Derrick Rose and a Chris Bryant. You know, or a Chris Bryant, Anthony Rizzo combo of, okay, this is going to be something. barring injury.
And even to a lesser extent, like when Patrick Kane and Jonathan Tays were a little bit younger, like that excitement of the top tier guys. So I'm 100% with you. As we move on, last kind of sportsy thing about it, and then we'll move on to the entertainment thing as we wrap this bad boy up. Any final thoughts on the draft itself? Did you like anything? Did you hate anything? Is there a player besides Justin Fields that you liked that went to a certain team, or is there somebody who you think might struggle as their careers go on? And it's always a fun time, but your kind of last analysis on the actual players themselves of this year's draft.
I thought it was a fun first round. Obviously, when you get to later rounds, that's more for the diehard professionals like you, I would say, where you're like, that's where the draft really means a lot more.
That's where you're one.
The first pick, but when you start stacking and building your team, I like the Dolphins a lot. I thought the Jags made a lot of good moves, very young, but I like that organization because I like AEW and we're wrestling marks. Mm-hmm. I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun to watch. I thought they did the Bears dirty by, deciding to give an announcement right before we did our pick.
Yeah.
So that's kind of dirty. But I think the NFL is starting to lean toward like what the NBA does. And you need to get you need that entertainment factor. It can't just be good games. You need these stars. And I like this young generation coming in to really lead us into that new style of football. And it's always exciting when you get a classic quarterbacks like this, and they're all so different. And you hope they can all be successful because that's good for the NFL to have young, successful quarterbacks who all do something a little bit different on big programs. And with last year's class of the Joe Burrows and our boy
Justin Herbert.
Yes, it's only fun. And we're seeing I'm excited for quarterbacks. You see someone like Cam Newton. How good is his career going to turn out? Now you got Mac Jones. Is that going to be a thing in the Patriots system? It's exciting. When the quarterback's good, it's like a starting pitcher or a nice third or first baseman in baseball. Like when that person's good, the league is good. It's good for everyone. So I'm really excited.
And when a certain team is good, like when you have the Bears in Chicago, the Steelers, the Raiders, the Cowboys, you just go on and on. I've named your team. The Bills. Philly. It's like the Giants. All of NFC East. But, it definitely goes into that. Now, as we take the sports, and if you guys are just into it for the movies and the pop culture, let's bring you guys into this as we wrap this bad boy up. Is there anything, or is it even possible for like the Grammys or the Academy Awards? Before I move on with that, I think the Grammys and music awards at least have the benefit of live performances. But let's say the Academy Awards. Is there anything that the Academy Awards can do to mimic the NFL Draft, the NBA All-Star Weekend, the Super Bowl, WrestleMania, World Series Week? Is there anything that they can do to replicate connecting with the audience in a way? Or is it just that sports and sports entertainment is just so much more respected because of what they're doing physically, even though we know people like Daniel Day-Lewis and Christian Bale and Meryl Streep and so on and so forth do what they do to perform in that level? Is there ever a way we could connect those two and the Hollywood side of this can finally catch up and get it through their brain?
Yeah, it's easy. And it's not a mimic thing. It's a host. You need a good host. And I think the problem is you try to test a lot of hosts out. And, I think you got, it's like wrestling. You can't be tone deaf. How many times did people ask for like a Tina Fey, Amy Poehler combo? Or, Ricky Gervais, like there's always something where everyone's like, hey, I'll watch if this person's hosting. Like Kevin Hart, a Rock, like you need a name to really make me want to invest and bring that fan base in. So I don't think it's a mimic thing because obviously, the NFL, NBA, it's not about the host, it's about the sport and your team going forward. In this case, I think it is a host. I think you need someone. We joke about the MTV Movie Awards, but why are they viewed more? It's almost a pointless award because you have Leslie Jones hosting and she's funny, plus the entertainment. Mm-hmm. So you throw in your 5 Oscar-winning songs and you throw in a couple of bits. I also think, here's the other thing, we talked about it. If you're going to have 10 movies, use all 10 movies.
Yep.
You're being smart by letting Netflix in. So more people are watching Trial of Chicago 7, Judas and the Black Messiah on HBO, and Mank. There's more movies out there for you. So it's not that anymore. I think you have to find someone that makes me want to watch. If I heard Kevin Hart's hosting, I'm watching to watch Kevin Hart minimum. And if I'm a Kevin Hart fan or a movie fan, you're like, I want to see how he does. If The Rock hosts, everyone's going to watch.
And I think the problem is Hollywood's also afraid of Hollywood. You know, it has that fear of like ever stepping lines and not wanting to, and I'm only using the word offended because that's the only word I can think of, but like offend people. So they also have to tee that line of who can we trust that's going to do, check all the magical boxes. Like when you're stuck in that domain, it's hard for you to get out of it. But, you and I, it's some of our favorite time of the years because we appreciate the art form, the skill, the dedication it takes to take these projects from here and make them these spectacles that they end up being. And even as something as, from years past, like Parasite, to something as grand as Gladiator, So with that, though, good brother, it was a fun week. And I think we have a busy week coming up. The next few weeks, things are coming out in theaters. And it's only a matter of time, good brother, until the next big MCU project, whether it's Loki or Black Widow, are back out. And we are in movie theaters. Any final thoughts?
No, it's one of those slower weeks, a transitional week to get you to the next. A lot of season finales, which leads to a dull week, but then you get a lot of season premieres. And we got through a lot of our blockbusters of Kong and Godzilla and Mortal Kombat, but now you have looking forward to a Black Widow, a Space Jam on HBO. So there is a lot to look forward to. We're definitely in that transition into our summer blockbuster month. We're in March and February. You get a few early ones, same with April, but now you're really going to start seeing them laying them out there. So that's exciting.
Yes, and is Brady excited for what should be a fun summer?
Always.
So for the good brother himself, Alex Mercado, and for the one and only, let me see if I can point it, there we go, and the one and only Brady himself, bingo. We want to thank you guys so much for joining us on this edition of The Good Brothers here on Mercado Airwaves. Of course, we're doing this on a Sunday evening. Normally, we try to do this earlier on in the week, but The Good Brother, there was a lot of stuff going on in the competition world, and we brought home some gold from some people close to us. So shout out to all the kids coaches. Be safe, and thank you guys for being winners. And Good Brother, thank you for making some time for us. Follow him all over the socials. He's on Twitter at Mercado21Alex and on Instagram, Mercado2121. And also follow the show on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and you can follow the network on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. We have swag. You can go to Patreon to support us. All those fun stuffs, wherever you get your favorite podcast. Make sure you like, rate, review, and share us. That's teespring.com, that's Patreon, and wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airways. For the one and only, the Good Brother himself and his partner in crime, Brady, the Good Brother, Alex Mercado.
Adios.
I'm the Good Brother, Mike Mercado. We will see you next time here on the Good Brothers on the Mercado Airwaves Network.
Thanks for joining us here on The Good Brothers, here on Mercado Airwaves.